Important disclaimer, this video is 100% educational. Everything you're about to see is based on public documents, news reports, and official records from the United States Department of Justice. We do not teach, encourage, or glorify any illegal activity. Hacking into systems is a crime, punishable by up to 20 years in federal prison. You have been warned. The world was freaking out about Y2K. The internet was still in diapers, and NASA was overseeing the construction of the most expensive project in human history, the International Space Station. But somewhere in Florida, in a messy bedroom filled with posters and soda cans, a 15-year-old kid with a computer worse than your smartphone was inside NASA's systems. And what he did next shut down everything. This is the true story of Jonathan James, code name C0 Murade, the first teenager ever convicted of cybercrime in United States history, and a warning that still echoes today. Jonathan Joseph James was born on December 12, 1983, in Miami, Florida. Son of a programmer, he grew up surrounded by technology at a time when most kids were still playing outside in the streets. His father worked with computers, and from an early age, he taught his son the basics of programming. It was a gift. It was a curse. Depends on how you look at it. Jonathan was what people call a whiz kid, a prodigy. By 13, he understood more about computers than most adults. By 14, he was bored with what the regular internet had to offer. And here's the problem: intelligence without direction, curiosity without limits, and zero guidance about what was legal or illegal in the digital world. Because in 1999, almost nobody talked about digital ethics. There were no classes on online citizenship. There were no YouTubers explaining the consequences. It was the Wild West of the internet. And Jonathan, like many kids who were too brilliant for their own good, chose the wrong path. Now, before I continue, I need to be crystal clear about something. I am not going to explain how he did this. I will not show commands, tools, or techniques. That would be irresponsible, illegal to teach, and frankly, stupid. What I will tell you is what the public documents from the United States Department of Justice recorded between August and October of 1999. Jonathan James, then 15 years old, gained unauthorized access to multiple government computer systems. He didn't hack some gaming website. He accessed systems belonging to the Defense Threat Reduction Agency, the DTRA, responsible for monitoring nuclear, biological, and chemical threats. And then NASA. According to NASA, Jonathan gained access to systems at the Marshall Space Flight Center, the center responsible for the International Space Station. He managed to view information about source code for critical software. Software that, according to reports at the time, was related to the environmental control systems of the ISS. We're talking about systems that keep astronauts alive in space. And in a moment that NASA described as a critical incident, systems were shut down as a precaution. For 21 days, NASA had to investigate, verify, and restore systems. 21 days? 3 weeks? A teenager caused this. Now, you might be thinking, but how did they figure out it was a 15-year-old kid? The answer is simple. He left traces. Lots of traces. See, Jonathan was brilliant, but he was 15. And like every teenager, he made mistakes. He talked too much. He showed off too much. And the online community back then was already being monitored. The FBI was already investigating a series of intrusions into government systems. And the clues led to Miami, to a residential neighborhood, to an ordinary house, to a teenager's bedroom. January 26, 2006 in the morning. Jonathan James was still sleeping when he woke up to the sound of pounding on the door. FBI. Federal search warrant. 15 agents. Bulletproof vests. Weapons drawn for a 15-year-old kid in his pajamas, in a bedroom with a Star Wars poster on the wall. The FBI seized everything. The computer, the disks, notebooks, everything that could be evidence. And Jonathan James, codename C0 was formally charged with federal crimes. At 15 years old, what happened next was historic, literally, because Jonathan James became the first minor ever convicted of cybercrime in United States history. And the charges were heavy: unauthorized access to protected computer systems, theft of government data, interference with federal agency systems, interception of classified information. If Jonathan had been an adult, he would have been looking at more than 10 years in federal prison. But he was 15 when he committed the crimes, and 16 when he was sentenced. So the juvenile justice system stepped in. In September 2000, Jonathan was sentenced to 6 months of house arrest, plus a period of probation and a total ban from using computers for recreational purposes. Think about that. A kid who lived for computers, forbidden from touching one, but the consequences went beyond the legal sentence. NASA estimated that the incident cost approximately $41,000 in work hours, investigations, and system repairs. That might seem small compared to NASA's billion-dollar budget, but it wasn't just about money. It was about trust. The greatest space agency in the world, with a budget in the billions, had been humiliated by a teenager with a used computer. The whole world was watching and laughing. But here's the twist in this story. What could have been just an embarrassment became a revolution. The Jonathan James case was a shock, a slap in the face to the entire American government, and it woke up sleeping giants. After this case, a series of changes began. First, complete overhaul of security protocols across federal agencies. Second, significant increase in cybersecurity budgets. Third, creation of new laws and harsher penalties for and perhaps most importantly, the birth of an entire industry. Because after Jonathan James, the world finally understood, if a 15-year-old kid can do this, imagine what a hostile government or a criminal organization could do. Suddenly, companies wanted to be hacked, but in a controlled way, by professionals. The modern concept of penetration testing was born: boogie bounties, ethical hacking, red teams. Today, the same skills Jonathan used illegally are worth millions. Legally, companies like Google, Microsoft, and Apple pay fortunes for hackers to find vulnerabilities before the criminals do. What Jonathan did in the dark, out of teenage curiosity, criminally, is now a respected career, well-paid, and completely legal. Before I wrap up, I need to say something important. Jonathan James was 15 years old. He was brilliant, curious, probably bored out of his mind, and absolutely without guidance on what to do with his talent. If he had been born 10 years later, maybe he would have found bug bounty platforms, CTF competitions, legal security communities, certifications like CEH, OSCP, CompTIA Security Plus. But in 1999, none of that existed, and he paid an incredibly high price. Unfortunately, Jonathan James's story does not have a happy ending. Jonathan James passed away in 2008, actually just 24 years old. We're not going to go into details about his death, but we can learn from his life. If you're watching this and you're young and you're curious about computers and you want to know how things work under the hood, that is amazing. Don't lose that curiosity, but channel it legally. Study for recognized certifications. Participate in CDFs, capture the flag, legal competitions, sign up for bug bounty programs. Take ethical hacking courses. Build your own virtual lab to practice. Because today, you can get paid, and paid very well, to do legally what Jonathan did illegally. The difference between hero and criminal is permission. If you enjoyed this story and want more cases like this, always with real lessons and no glorification, hit that subscribe button. Click the bell, leave a like, and drop a comment down below. Did you know about the Comerade story? Do you want to see more historical cybersecurity cases? Final reminder, unauthorized access to computer systems is a federal crime in the United States. The Computer Fraud and Abuse Act provides for penalties of up to 20 years in prison. State laws can add additional charges and penalties. Don't be stupid. Be ethical. Be legal. Get paid to hack with permission. Permission.